The INFJ has a mysterious ability to change, not their identity but their energy. One moment, they seem quiet and deeply thoughtful. The next, they're expressive, funny, and full of warmth. To the people around them, it can look like they're different depending on the day or the person they're with. Some might even wonder, which one is the real them? But for the INFJ, this isn't pretending. It's something deeper, a natural adaptation that happens almost automatically. They read the room, sense the emotions in it, and then adjust themselves to fit what's needed. It's not acting. It's empathy in motion. This is what people often call shapeshifting. INFJs are known for their ability to connect with anyone, from quiet thinkers to loud extroverts, from the deeply emotional to the detached and logical. They can meet people where they are, not because they want to impress them, but because they understand them. Their personality changes like water, taking the shape of its container. But unlike water, this process takes energy. Behind every shift is intention. Sometimes it's to keep peace. Sometimes it's to help others feel safe. Sometimes it's to protect their inner world from people who wouldn't understand it. And sometimes it's to express a part of themselves that only certain people bring out. To outsiders, the INFJ's shifting nature can look confusing. They might think it's inconsistency or even manipulation. But for the INFJ, it's survival. It's how they stay connected to others without losing touch with their own depth. In this video, we'll explore 6 reasons why the INFJ shapeshifts, not to deceive, but to adapt, to heal, and to stay aligned with who they truly are beneath all the changes. Reason number 1. They adapt to environments to maintain harmony. INFJs care deeply about emotional balance. When they walk into a room, they instantly sense the tone, the mood, the tension, the unspoken energy between people. This awareness drives them to adapt. If the atmosphere feels tense, they soften it. If it feels heavy, they bring calm. If it's chaotic, they stay grounded. Their ability to shift their presence to match what's needed makes them the quiet stabilizers in any group. This adaptation is not fake, it's instinct. The INFJ's mind automatically adjusts tone, language, and body language to keep harmony. If they're around loud, assertive personalities, they become more expressive to keep balance. If they're surrounded by sensitive, introverted people, they become softer and quieter. Their empathy works like a mirror, reflecting back what the environment needs to feel safe. But this constant balancing act can come with a cost. The INFJ sometimes forgets where the line is between adaptation and self-erasure. Because they want others to feel comfortable, they may suppress their own truth. They may laugh when they're tired or agree when they actually disagree, simply to prevent conflict. Over time, this habit can make them feel invisible or misunderstood. Still, their adaptability is one of their greatest strengths. It allows them to move between worlds, from social to serious, from emotional to logical, with ease. They can bridge gaps between personalities who would otherwise never connect. They can bring peace to conflict and understanding to confusion. People often describe INFJs as easy to be around, but they rarely realize the work happening behind that calm presence. Every small shift, in tone, in mood, in pace, is the INFJ quietly tuning themselves to the environment like an emotional musician adjusting pitch. The reason they shapeshift here is simple. Harmony matters to them more than control. They don't want to dominate the room. They just want to help everyone in it feel understood. Reason number 2. They mirror others to build connection. One of the INFJ's most powerful traits is their ability to mirror people. They don't copy behavior, they reflect emotion. When someone talks to them, the INFJ begins to subconsciously match their rhythm, not to manipulate, but to connect. If someone speaks fast and excitedly, the INFJ's energy rises to meet them. If the person speaks slowly and thoughtfully, the INFJ softens their tone. This mirroring builds trust quickly. The other person feels seen and understood, even if they can't explain why. The INFJ's ability to tune in emotionally creates a sense of safety that few other personalities can match. This tendency comes from their deep empathy. The INFJ doesn't just hear words, they feel them. They pick up emotional signals and respond by creating emotional balance. If the person in front of them is anxious, they project calm. If that person feels down, they project warmth. If the person is guarded, they become gentle. To the outside observer, it can look like the INFJ is changing personalities depending on who they're with. But what's really happening is emotional mirroring. The INFJ is blending empathy with awareness to create alignment. It's their way of saying, "I understand you," without words. The risk of this mirroring, however, is that it can blur boundaries. When the INFJ spends too much time reflecting others, they sometimes forget their own emotional baseline. They might leave a conversation carrying someone else's mood, feeling heavy or drained without knowing why. Still, this gift is what makes them excellent listeners, friends, and counselors. People often open up to INFJs quickly because they sense that they won't be judged. That sense of acceptance comes from the INFJ's subtle shapeshifting, their ability to meet others emotionally where they stand. They don't mirror to gain approval. They mirror to connect. For the INFJ, understanding people requires entering their emotional world. Mirroring is simply the door they walk through to get there. Reason number 3. They hide their true selves when vulnerable. The INFJ is one of the most private personalities. Even though they can be open and warm, they reveal very little about their inner life unless they feel completely safe. When they sense judgment or misunderstanding, they shapeshift into a different version of themselves, one that protects their true thoughts and emotions. This version isn't fake. It's protective. It's the INFJ's emotional armor. When they're hurt, confused, or anxious, they often hide behind calmness or humor. They smile instead of explaining, deflect questions instead of answering them. This keeps others from seeing how much they're feeling inside. The reason is simple. INFJs experience emotions deeply, and not everyone can handle that depth. When they've tried being open in the past and were dismissed or misunderstood, they learn to guard their emotions carefully. So when vulnerability feels unsafe, they shapeshift into a lighter, more socially acceptable self. This protective shapeshifting can look like sudden withdrawal or emotional neutrality. They might seem detached, but inside, they're analyzing, processing, and waiting to see who can be trusted. It's their way of testing emotional safety. Once they feel secure, the mask falls away naturally. People who know them casually often describe them as easygoing or mysterious. Those who know them deeply see another layer, the intensity, honesty, and warmth that only appears when the INFJ feels safe. The difference between these two versions isn't deception, it's selective authenticity. The INFJ shapeshifts here to protect something sacred, their inner world. They know that once trust is broken, rebuilding it is nearly impossible. So instead of exposing themselves to harm, they adjust their outer layer. This allows them to stay present without being vulnerable to people who haven't earned their truth. It's not that they don't want to be real. It's that they've learnt not everyone deserves the real version. Reason number 4. Their vision drives them to adjust roles. INFJs are vision-driven people. Everything they do is guided by a sense of meaning, purpose, or long-term vision that most people don't see. They live by the question, does this serve what matters? That's why their personality often seems to shift, depending on what goal or mission they're pursuing. When the INFJ believes in something, a cause, a message, or a purpose, they'll step into any role that helps them serve it. This is where their shapeshifting becomes intentional. They can move between personalities with surprising ease, not out of manipulation, but out of alignment with their vision. If the vision requires leadership, they can become assertive and focused. If it requires diplomacy, they become soft-spoken and understanding. If it calls for creativity, they'll shift into their imaginative, expressive side. Their adaptability is a skill, not a mask. It's how they translate their inner ideals into action that others can follow. This is why INFJs often surprise people. Someone might see them as quiet and reserved, then suddenly watch them speak with passion in front of a crowd. The transformation can be startling, but it's natural for them. When purpose calls, they step forward as the version of themselves that best serves that moment. They don't change who they are, they change how they express who they are. To them, identity isn't fixed, it's a tool for impact. They see every version of themselves as part of a larger whole. The INFJ who listens quietly and the INFJ who leads boldly come from the same source, conviction. However, this kind of shape-shifting can also create misunderstanding. People who don't see the INFJ's internal consistency might accuse them of being inconsistent or two-faced, but that's far from true. Their core never changes, their methods do. The INFJ knows that impact requires flexibility. A message can't reach everyone the same way. So they adapt their form to the situation, just as water changes shape to fill its container. Their goal is never to blend in, but to make meaning flow where it's needed most. In a world where most people chase comfort, the INFJ shapeshifts for purpose. That's what sets them apart. They become what the mission demands, without ever losing sight of who they truly are. Reason number 5. They shift identities to avoid emotional exhaustion. INFJs absorb energy like sponges. Every interaction, every emotion, every conflict leaves an impression. They feel deeply, and that empathy can quickly become overwhelming. When their emotional circuits are overloaded, they instinctively shapeshift, not to deceive, but to survive. This shift often shows up as a sudden change in energy. One day, they're warm and outgoing. The next, they're distant and quiet. People who don't understand them might think they're moody or unpredictable, but it's actually emotional regulation. They're protecting themselves from burnout. After long periods of social or emotional intensity, the INFJ system needs silence. So they pull back, becoming a calmer, more inward version of themselves. Their focus turns from others to self-recovery. It's their way of releasing the energy they have absorbed from the outside world. This shape-shifting isn't about pretending, it's about recalibrating. The INFJ carries emotional weight that others can't see. If they stayed open all the time, they'd collapse under it. So they change form to manage it. In work or social life, this might look like withdrawing from group activities, avoiding messages, or becoming unusually quiet. It's not rejection, it's repair. Once they've rebalanced internally, their warmth returns naturally. The challenge is that many INFJs feel guilty for these shifts. They worry that people will think they're unreliable or inconsistent. But in reality, it's one of their healthiest survival mechanisms. They can't always explain it because it's not a decision, it's an instinct. This pattern of emotional shape-shifting also explains why INFJs are so hard to pin down. They exist on a spectrum between engagement and retreat. Their personality expands when they're emotionally open and contracts when they need rest. It's not two different people. It's one person managing emotional energy with precision. To outsiders, this can look confusing. To the INFJ, it's balance. They shapeshift not because they want to, but because they have to. Without this rhythm, they would lose the emotional depth that defines them. Their changes are not instability, they're recovery in motion. Reason number 6. They evolve their persona as they align closer with self. Over time, the INFJ's shapeshifting begins to look less like adaptation and more like transformation. When they're younger, they change to fit in or to protect themselves. But as they mature, something shifts. They start changing to align with who they truly are. In their early years, they often absorb expectations from family, society, or relationships. They play roles to be accepted. But as they gain self-awareness, they begin to let those roles fall away. What once looked like shape-shifting to survive becomes evolution toward authenticity. Every version of themselves, the helper, the listener, the thinker, the leader, becomes part of a larger whole. The INFJ starts choosing which traits to express, not out of fear, but out of intention. They stop shape-shifting to be understood and start shape-shifting to express truth. This stage often confuses people who knew the old version of them. Suddenly, the INFJ seems stronger, calmer, or more direct. They might speak their mind more or say no when they used to say yes. Others might see it as a personality change, but for the INFJ, it's the opposite. It's the first time they're being completely themselves. This is the final purpose of their shapeshifting, to become whole. Each version of them, every adjustment, every role, has taught them something about identity. By their 30s or 40s, they've learned to unify these sides instead of choosing between them. They're no longer one self at work and another at home. They're consistent, balanced, and grounded. Their shape-shifting stops being reaction and becomes mastery. They can move between worlds without losing themselves. They can empathize without absorbing, adapt without hiding, and change without fear. At this stage, the INFJ's transformation becomes visible. They're calm, confident, and self-aware. They still shift when needed, but now it's conscious. They don't shapeshift to survive, they shapeshift to evolve. To an observer, it looks like they've finally settled into who they are. But to the INFJ, it feels like something else, coming home to themselves. For most of their lives, INFJs are seen as enigmas, people who seem to change, adapt, and evolve in ways that others can't quite understand. But this so-called shapeshifting isn't deception. It's the natural expression of someone who feels the world more deeply than most and must adjust constantly to survive within it. The INFJ shapeshifts because the world demands it. They sense every emotional shift around them, every tone, every silence, every undercurrent. They know instinctively how to bring balance where there's tension, warmth where there's distance, and stillness where there's chaos. This ability makes them invaluable in human connection, but it also makes them tired. To protect themselves, they change form. Their shape-shifting is empathy in action. It's adaptation with purpose. It's how they keep giving without breaking. When the world becomes too heavy, they retreat. When the world needs light, they step forward. When the truth feels unsafe, they wear calmness like armor until it's safe to take it off again. What others see as inconsistency is actually intelligence, emotional intelligence of the highest kind. The INFJ doesn't live behind one mask. They carry many expressions of truth, each chosen carefully for the moment they're needed. But there's a deeper truth behind all of this. As the INFJ grows older, their shapeshifting becomes less about protection and more about mastery. They no longer adjust to please or survive. They adjust to align. They move through life like a prism, changing color not because they're uncertain, but because they reflect what's real around them. To the people who misunderstand them, this can still seem strange. They may think the INFJ is hiding something. But what they're really seeing is depth, layers that shift with light and experience. The INFJ is not many people. They are one person with many ways to exist. Their gift is transformation without losing truth. They can be strong and soft, quiet and expressive, logical and emotional, all at once. Their ability to shapeshift is not a sign of weakness, but of flexibility, awareness, and growth. So if you're an INFJ, understand this. Your ability to change isn't something to apologize for. It's part of what makes you powerful. You can walk into any room and bring harmony where others bring noise. You can speak the language of emotion, truth, and energy all at once. You can become what's needed and still remain entirely yourself. The world doesn't need you to stay the same. It needs you to stay true, even as you change shape. That's the essence of the INFJ, constant evolution rooted in constant integrity. And that's why, no matter how they appear, one truth always stays the same. The INFJ never shapeshifts away from who they are. They shapeshift closer to it,